What addiction do people struggle with the most? I know there's all sorts of addictions out there. We normally think of drugs, alcohol, sex, pornography, gambling, eating. But I'm going to tell you, I think our greatest fight is with this addiction, and it's the addiction to control. For whatever reason, we seem to think that we can control life and that in doing so, we can be happy. Humans like to think they can control nature. How's that working out? It doesn't. You can't control the natural force of life because what is the natural force of life doing? It's constantly changing. And if change is the constant in life, how do you control change? You don't know what it's going to be. There's zillions upon zillions upon zillions of variables. So we get down and we say, well, what can I control? Well, I can control my kids. I can control my partner. I can control my pets. I can control my employees. And guess what? The number one value that every human being has is the value of freedom. Think about that. If everyone's number one value is freedom, and you're trying to control someone, what are they going to do? They're going to eventually rebel because it's not natural for them. And how do you feel when you're being controlled? You don't feel free, do you? And you feel resentment. I can share with you that the greatest reason why I'm still in my marriage is that my wife gives me the freedom to be me. Now, we do have boundaries, we do have agreements involved, and that's appropriate in any relationship that you have agreements. So here's the number one agreement that I teach in any and all relationships. It's you have to ask for what you want when you want it. If you're not asking, that other person's not responsible for reading your mind. They're free to live their life without any consideration of what you think. Do you get that? They don't need to give you any consideration for what you think. If they're being authentic, if they're being real, if their intentions are pure with no intention to hurt whatsoever, they owe you nothing. It's your view that they need to react and respond in a certain way. You're trying to control that other person. And nobody in the world sees the world the way anyone else does because we're all unique and we're all different. So where in your life are you controlling? And don't tell me you're not. You are. Could be passive aggressive. It could be aggressive. It could be sometimes. It may be all the time. Then you ask the question, where are you being controlled in your life? And how does that feel? I know that I get that all the time. When I was a child, I was being controlled. When I started in relationships, I was trying to be controlled, or I was controlling. In the corporate world, I was being controlled, or I was controlling. As a minister, I learned you can't control. You've got to go with the flow. COVID was the biggest thing that ever came up for me as a minister. I couldn't control what was happening. What I had to do was to give up control and pivot. That's right, I pivoted. I realized that you couldn't do in person and you had to do virtual. That's why I'm talking with you right now. This is a result of COVID. I decided I wanted to meet with people once a day, give them a message. Just like right now, I can't control that something's in my throat. I can't get upset about it. I deal with it and I move on. You see, we get really hung up that we have to be perfect. We don't have to be perfect. We already are. What we have to do is, are we fully present in the moment? And are we doing our best in the moment? As I felt that thing in my throat, the best I could do was to take a drink, to pause, to see if I got it done, to pause again, to see if I got it done. I couldn't control that. And life is not about, well, I'll start the recording again. No, life is continuous. Life is constantly in change, and you adapt with it. I want you to think about today, as you're meeting at work, with your partner, with your children, with your parents, your friends, whoever you're with. Is it a relationship where you feel free? Is it a relationship that you give the other person freedom? Realize freedom is what we all want. Here's another little quickie. If you don't feel free, you don't feel loved. And if you're not giving someone else freedom, you're not loving them. Freedom and love are one and the same. With that, my beautiful ones, it's your day. Make it great. And go with the flow. Pivot. You don't need to control. Just be your best. Much love and aloha.